Welcome back. Now we want to go deeper into the discussion we started in the last session, which talks about the tripartite nature of a human being. As a human being, you are a spirit, soul, and body being. In other words, you have three sides to your dimensions, and all these three sides work together. If one part is affected, it also can affect the other parts. For example, someone who is physically healed may have psychological symptoms, may start having what is called delirium, and some may also have depression depending on the type of physical illness that is going on. Uh, Based on their ability to cope with the situation. Sometimes it may even develop anxiety. Different things can happen from the physical illness that can affect the soul, depending on how depending on how the individual is able to adapt or cope with the situation. So the same way, like we mentioned in the last session, a psychological experience or a spiritual experience can manifest with psychological symptoms too. A psychological event can also manifest in forms of physical symptoms. I've seen some people who come to the hospital with physical complaints, and what was wrong with them was just going on in their minds. Okay, some would talk about having crawling sensation, and some are not able to sleep properly at night, and different kind of experiences like that. But what is going on is actually in their mind. When that is resolved, the symptoms is also gone. Just to give an example of what can happen to the physical body, even when something is happening at the level of the mind. Okay, now there are instances where what is experienced is actually spiritual. However, some practitioners will interpret them as psychological. For example, somebody who is witnessing a demonic manifestation may be treated as someone going through who is having delirium by uninformed medical practitioners. It takes understanding of the nature of a thing to be able to know, okay, to be able to have an idea, okay, what is going on with this particular individual. Just to understand that a spiritual problem can have physical or psychological manifestation. A physical problem can also affect the psyche of a human being. And if you do not take care of it at that level, it can also affect your spiritual part. And then I should also mention that there are illnesses that manifest in the physical body that also start spiritually. A lot of people don't want to agree with it. The orthodox medical practice may not want to step in. Of course, it's not their territory, by the way. Okay, but it does happen, and people have physical illnesses that originate as spiritual. It is only when the spiritual is dealt with that the physical symptoms, the physical manifestation tend to leave. But in terms of redesigning your life, it is important to know that if your mind is not at rest, if you are not properly taking care of your body, and by that I mean adequate rest, eating eating appropriately at the right time. I'm talking about exercising your body, not just sleeping on one spot for a long time, sitting down watching movie for a long time. Sitting down having meetings for a long time without getting up and moving around. If you do not practice, if you do not exercise your body, it tends to you tend to put your body at risk. There are some people who feel that they are not excited about life, and it's just because they are not exercising regularly or they are not exposed to sunlight. So the kind of things that you expose your body to, that you expose your mind to, that you expose yourself to spiritually can influence the kind of things that happen in your life. For example, there are people whose life turned downhill just because they decided to participate in occultic practices. Some other people may not be able to tell you this, but in my own practice, this is part of the topic I must not omit. Just like we have physical boundaries and laws, we also have spiritual boundaries and laws. We also have boundaries that has to do with your soul. If these boundaries are violated, there is impact that will show up in people's life. So many people now they think they are actually depressed, like we saw in the last session. But if the spiritual aspect of things are taken care of, the issues will be resolved. Some people who find it difficult to communicate their experiences to other people because it's weird, they probably had a spiritual link with those experiences. For example, people who have demonic manifestations, they see terrible beings, that may probably want to harm them or just showing themselves to them. Probably have somebody in their lineage who has spiritually dedicated the family to some form of spirits. And so they may, at a particular time, they may start seeing those spirits showing up in their house. It looks very weird, but because we are not just physical beings, that start happening. And then some of these spirits may want to start reordering your life, trying to make you go in a particular direction. And if you do not know what to do, if you are kind of a person that ignore the spiritual, you may find yourself running in a direction that you never wanted, but your life is put at risk just because you did not believe in the spiritual. Now, I'm telling you, there are people who are right now in this particular situation. They don't know what to do. They think it's strange, but they can't communicate because they think nobody is going to listen to them. Who is going to understand them? That something just appeared in their room and was staring at them and disappeared. If you have in your lineage somebody who has practiced occultic practices, it's likely you are going to experience something like that. If you have somebody in your family, your lineage, who practice witchcraft, you may experience such things. If you yourself have played with Ouija boards, tarot cards, and other things with occultic symbols, or watch movies in that dimension, you probably opened a portal through the movie that for the demons to appear, or for them to come to you. Some will even come not as terrible beings; they will come as spirit guides. It's the same because they have a target. The spiritual is meant to be experienced by the permission of your creator. But there are people who open the dimension because of occultic practices or because of violent sexual experiences or because of other things like that. So I need you to know because these things are real. We are not to shy away from reality, even when they look weird. They are not paranormal, they are reality, but in the spiritual dimension. And if you do not accept some of these things, I hope you will not get into a point in your life where you will have those kind of encounters and you will not know what to do with it. For people who already believe in Jesus, who knows the power of on his in his name, they can actually call on his name and they will be rescued. But people who also don't believe in spiritual things, they will find themselves in great risk in those kind of moments. I'm talking about moments that can redefine people's lives. Some people are persistently living in fear, and they are having one problem on the other one. When they are trying to resolve one another, another one comes, and their life is in disarray just because they dabbled into the occult. This this is not just me saying it. If you search online for impact of occultic practices, the negative impact that has been discovered on health and general life, you will find a lot to discover about that.